Everyday People is a segment of my show that I want to dedicate for those that are literally in this world but not of it. Those that are even of this world to come and to be healed, to come and let light be, let there be a transformation in their life. That when they come into this atmosphere, they're healed.
I think communication is very important. I think we struggle with our ability to comprehend, not necessarily because we don't want to comprehend. It's in the moment in an emotionally charged setting. And what I mean by emotionally charged, everyone goes through a series of random emotions throughout the day based on what we've been through. And what happens psychologically, let's say for instance, let's just use Target, for example. I want to use Target because there's a lot of backlash that's going on with Target right now. And I know people can relate to it. So Target, I'm using Target for a common ground. Imagine you go to Target. If you're someone that doesn't follow up with social media, or you're someone that's not really involved in the he say, she say, and the DEI inclusion and all of these things, and whether or not it's taken off the shelf and what products are going and all of these things, then what Target represents to you is no longer just a place to shop, but now it's more a political place for you. Target was never about being a political place. Target was about being a go-to place, a resourceful place. This is a place that you're going to get high quality products consistently at a good price. That is what Target has consistently communicated. Where we get it messed up is we tend to take our own emotions and we project them based on how we should feel. We take our emotions and then we project them onto someone else. And it takes one influential voice on social media to say, boycott Target because Target made me feel this way when I heard this. That's what you're really communicating. That's not what you intend to communicate, but that's what you are communicating. And unfortunately, people care more about your intentions, about what you did, and the domino effect than your intentions. When it comes to reasoning with one another, that is when you express your intentionality. But most people do not get to the point of caring what your intentionality is because the delivery is off. As young people, as young professionals, we do have to be mindful of our delivery. We can take it. From one millennial to another, we understand one another. But when we go to a workforce, we can't bring in the sis, the bro, the hey, the cuz, the whatever street colloquialisms we use as a reference point to try to relate to them. They don't relate to that. The way that they relate is professionalism. So in order to survive in corporate America, you have to understand the language of professionalism. For me, I didn't understand what the level of professionalism was. So I kept getting stopped at the gate. I can get the job, I can get the title, I can get all these things, but am I able to maintain it? No. Why? You have to adapt the language of professionalism. You also have to know where you go short and start asking the right questions within your own self. I'm 30 years old and I just found out recently that I'm on the autism spectrum. Talk to me, because I never considered myself to be someone that was autistic or had a disability with the way that she communicates. When I'm in purpose, it's not hard for me to articulate a clear message. Everyone has a clear message of what they stand for, what they believe, what they'll tolerate, what they're going for. Everyone has a clear message of where they stand when you're mindful of what you're displaying, because everyone doesn't have the same viewpoints as you. And there's 3 things that they said not to talk about in a work setting. And it was politics, religion, and finances. Because those are the 3 that will completely destroy everything if you're not in agreement. Why? Those are strong pillars. Even in vote to elect a president who has your viewpoint, but if all of the Congress members also don't share your viewpoint, or the ones that have the majority of the vote don't have your viewpoint, you were hoping and wishing that your president could do something and get something passed, but he doesn't. Communication. Communication is not just language. Language is a part of communication, but you can communicate with your body language. You can communicate with verbal language. Your attitude, your emotions also present another language. And where we have to be mindful is assume that a person meant this when they did that, or I feel as though you're angry, you must be angry. You can't tell a person that they're angry when they don't feel as though that they're angry, even though you can see character traits of someone being angry. If someone tells you that they're not angry, then they're not at the point of anger. So you understand your emotional intelligence and your awareness is saying there is something that's off. You're not your best self. This is not how I normally interact with you. There is something that I feel as though that may be an issue. It may not be the time to put this up. It may not be the right setting for you to talk about it, but I do want to support you the best way that I can. How can I do that? Is it leaving you alone? As a coworker, you have to be emotionally intelligent and aware to say, hey, when they open up, they'll open up. Don't pry, but know your coworker. Does your coworker need a little bit of encouragement? Is your coworker someone where every time that they would try to open up, someone would make them feel down about themselves? So now they're recluse and they don't feel comfortable to open up? Or has your coworker sensed about you that, hey, and sometimes we don't know that we're doing this, that I'm generally asking you how you're doing, but I don't want to know the specifics of it. That I'm aware that there's something off today, but I'm not primed for that information. When you feel comfortable, you'll open up. If you feel comfortable opening up with me, I just want you to know that I support you. People want to know that they're supported. It's not always about the differences, because we can agree to disagree professionally. We can agree to disagree respectfully, but people still want to know that I support you. People want to know that you are supporting them at every step of the way. And as leaders, as parents, we got to be mindful of that, especially if you're a church leader. It doesn't matter about the differences of opinion, because your viewpoint is just your viewpoint. Today, right now, I'm sitting on the 10th floor. It's just a viewpoint. I can see further out. I can see over things that I typically wouldn't on a lower level. It's just a viewpoint. It's not to say that the person that's on level 3 is wrong from what I'm seeing here. You can't argue and say, oh, there's not a bridge that's over there because you don't see it. It still exists. Intelligence training is doing exactly that. It's teaching people how to not only understand human behavior, but how to respond in every level, and not to compartmentalize, and not to just leave work where it's at, not to just say, oh, it's a chaotic environment, it is what it is, or to say we have a culture here. It is a pity that I have worked in under circumstances where it's just a culture here. It's just the way it is here. And when I didn't fit into that culture, meant I was no longer satisfied for the job, or I was no longer conducive for the job or that role. And that is in itself, that's terrible. We're doing that a lot to individuals who are taking the time to apply for these jobs and they want to excel in their career. They've taken the steps, the professional growth, the self-development. When someone is obtaining a new level and a new career and a new degree, their development that they've done within their own self is what you're trying to see. Is what you're trying to attest to see, do they have it? And can we support them on where they are in their journey? Many times where someone will like that candidate because of however they were feeling emotionally in that day, as though they may be right for the job. But when they get in there and then they start displaying characters that you don't necessarily agree with, did you hire them because they agree or they align with all of the characteristics and the traits that you want them to have? Or did you hire them because you felt as though they were the best suited for the job? They were the most coachable, they were the most moldable, they had the most knowledge and the expertise for what we're requiring them. And yes, we have the resources to help train them and to push them for somewhere else, to grow within the company. Where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself with this company within the next 5 years? We want to invest in people that want to invest in us. We want to help advance people in their professionalism, in their career. Whatever it is, we want to provide them the resources so that we not only retain you here, but we can grow with you. You can grow with us. We want you to put back into this community. We're investing in you. I do see, and it is great and it's amazing, I do see a lot of companies that offer more benefits and they offer mental health support. And that's all fine, cool, and dandy for therapy. But you can't have therapy in the middle of a mock code. You can't have therapy session in the middle of a rapid response. You can't have therapy session in the middle of a staff meeting. At that point, that is where you have to rely on the emotional intelligence training that you have. A lot of people call it common sense. It's not common sense. People don't know people don't know what they're putting off. People, when they say perception, every perception is subjective. And how people perceive you is not up to you. That's not entirely true. It's not entirely true. People actually get fired because of a wrong perception. I've had this conversation numerous times with my family members of when we're having a discussion, you don't think that you're coming off as judgmental or biased, but this is how it's coming off. In that moment, it's not about trying to defend yourself of, oh, I didn't mean to by this, this, and this, and this, and that. Most people mean well. Most people don't mean to. Some people do, but one thing that I want you to take away from this conversation is expect good intent. Assume good intent. Assume good intent for people because people are going to people and people can do whatever they want. Assume good intent for the purpose in which God has sent you there. So it may be a life lesson that you have to develop, that maybe he's developing your speech. Maybe he's developing your patience. Assume good intent that person is still there to teach you something. Learn from that aspect. They life ain't together. They can't teach me nothing. Everybody can teach you something. Life, be a student of life, and everyone is a part of life. Everything is a part of life. Whether they're teaching you to be aware, whether they're teaching you to open up more, whether they're teaching you that it's okay to be yourself, or whether they're teaching you of, hey, it's not okay to interrupt people when you're speaking. Always be a student of life. What I didn't realize about those that are on the autism spectrum, it's a lot of us, especially Black people, that are undiagnosed with autism. If you have a hard time articulating your message, it could be a sign that you are on the autism spectrum. ADD, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, OCD, fidgeting, random fits of rage or like an exuberant amount of emotions in one time, overly stimulated, hating to hear people chew. Like you're fixated on sounds, like little small minute things. You ever look back at someone and you be like, why can't I hear you chew? Why are you breathing so hard? Y'all, have y'all ever like really dived into it? So imagine you're working with a coworker who they also don't know that they're autistic or on the spectrum. Imagine you're working with someone who you don't know because you haven't taken the time to, but you're just thrown into orientation, that they actually get overloaded really easily. So for you to give them 20 things to do, that's not really conducive for them. Imagine you not knowing that, and you're the preceptor for this person, and you just give them a laundry list of things to do. It's bells and whistles and all types of stuff going on, and your response is, you better get used to it. This is a fast-paced environment. It is what it is. Well, hold on. They didn't say that they weren't suited for the job. Right now, you're overloading them. It is the person's responsibility to be able to articulate, hey, I'm getting overloaded in a respectful manner. But it's also the other person, it's the trainer, it's the one that they're working with to be emotionally aware to say, you look like, I don't want to assume, are you having any trouble with what I said, or can I clarify anything for you? It's being aware in that state, being aware in that mindset to say something's off. It's not you pushing through things to cover your own behind. I hear people say that a lot when they're going through training. I'm just giving you all the facts so we can cover our behind. Being aware of who the person is in front of you is more important than a statistic and looked at people as masses. No one wants to be grouped. No one wants to be compartmentalized. Everyone wants to be looked at as a person, not a number. And emotional intelligence training helps us as healthcare professionals stop looking at patients as just a number, stop looking at our associates as just a number, and being able to relate to them on a human level to provide them the resources and the help that's going to produce results. You want to keep the communication open. You never want any barriers. So when we're talking with one another, when we're relating with one another, you're always trying to find where the barriers are. As millennials, we have to get better at not interrupting and to find a common ground. The tips that I use, ways to not interrupt someone when they're speaking, is find a focal point. My mom helps me on this because I struggle with this a lot. Our attention span is kind of short and it's getting shorter as the generations come. So finding a focal point, looking at that focal point, my mom suggested using an ear, being able to listen and to dissect. So as you're listening to a person and they lose you, keeping notepads and paper. When you're in corporate America, you ever realize why people carry notepads and paper with them to most of their meetings? Repeating yourself is not effective communication, and it tends to not only frustrate you, but frustrate the person that you're working with. No one here likes to repeat themselves. As much times it's like, oh, I don't mind. I don't mind. Yes, you do. You may have an increase in tolerance of repeating yourself, but even God has a limit of repeating himself. Writing down where they lost you. When someone's explaining something to me, start being more attentive in your meetings and taking notes. These are the topics that we covered. Hey, instead of interrupting in your work relationship, if raising your hand is appropriate, raising your hand is absolutely cool. I've worked in an environment where people just blurt out, I don't think that that's effective. I don't think that this is this. Maybe we shouldn't do this approach. Maybe we should do this. And I've been in settings where people do raise their hand and they politely wait to be called on. So it is absolutely, you have to read the room and know the leader that you're working with and also your coworkers. There's some stereotypes that are already formed. Just be polite. We can't control, and we don't even know off the bat in that meeting who's coming in with those stereotypes. So we just want to be mindful of within our own self. We want to make sure that our intentions and what we're putting off is what we actually mean and what we feel. So a good practice of that is, if you're coming with a notepad, you're coming with a pen, not only is it saying, I intend to write down pertinent information so that I'm keeping track, but it also, you can highlight the topics and the areas for them to elaborate on, that you have notes, that you're not talking in a circle. I've had someone recently express to me that it was hard for them to understand me sometimes when I'm speaking with them because it seems as though I'm talking in circles. Okay, I thanked them for the honest feedback. And although what I got back was, I said, thank you for your honesty and feedback. Well, that's all you're going to get from me. Thank you. In that moment, it was a lot of, hey, sister girl attitude that was coming to me. And that was an invitation for me to give, hey, sister girl back. And I refused to give, hey, sister girl back. You maintain your professionalism and you just, thank you. Thank you. And you carry on about your business. Don't interrupt. With autism, the speech is very pressured. Sometimes the speech is pressured because you may lose the idea. So maybe write down your idea and just say, hey, I had an idea, and refer back to it. It's to be able to control your emotions in that state, because it is you having an influx of emotions. You're emotionally charged. You have this idea. You're inventive. You're creative. It's like the Good Doctor or Rain Man, not to that same degree, but you mean well. It's your delivery and your approach. Well, what if they mean by that? I was on this pattern of, when I get excited, randomly within the conversation, and these people because randomly within the conversation, I'm keeping track of what they're saying, but it was, I got a new idea. I wanted to share that idea with, hey, what about this? Is that the appropriate setting to do that? Or is that something that you need to write down and maybe have that sidebar conversation with your superior, your preceptor, your patient, or whatever it is? But it's finding the right time to put it. It's not that the idea was wrong. It's not that they're saying that your idea is wrong. And I've had people say that, Juwanna, it's not that you're wrong. It's the approach that you're going about it. So letting people say what they have to say. Well, what if what they're saying to me, I feel as though is nonsense, is this? When you develop the mentality here that what they're saying is nonsense, you think you're not displaying what they're saying is nonsense, but you are. And people can sense that. I've had some, and people can also perceive wrong. And that's where the communication comes from of, I'm sorry, the behavior, and ask for suggestions for the people that's saying, I felt offended by your behavior. This is where I would not, if it's management that's saying I'm offended by the behavior, I would ask for HR to be there already at a level of offense because you've offended them. That person naturally, human behavior naturally, when they say I'm not offended, they are offended. And we tend to display where we are offended. We change our behavior, we change our approach, we change our speech, we change how we interact with the people who offend us. We do that. It's human nature. The resilience and the level of professionalism and the growth mindset and the maturity comes from being able to assess, okay, this person may not be having a great time right now, or this person was taken back with what I said. Just apologize. Hey, I don't mean to offend. I would like to share with you what my intentions are. If you're open to it, if you need a moment, okay, cool. If you need me to come back at a later time, we can do that as well. But if you're open to continue the conversation, I would like to continue to the point of resolving the conflict if there's any. Being on that level to be able to communicate, you are going to have problems that arise when you're effectively communicating. Because there's differences in minds, there's differences in opinions, but to be able to work through it. That's the solution. That's the key. That's what we're learning here in emotional intelligence training. It is a workshop. It's training. This is something that you can get annually for your staff. This is something that you can get every month, however frequent that you want to. This is the coursework and the training of how we take our unprofessional generations and turn them into professional entrepreneurs, professional citizens, or just all around respectful people that you want to work with in positions. They're coming there with their certain level and expertise for a reason. We have to be, as leaders, we have to be open, we have to be vulnerable, we have to be honest to see the light in people and to give them the ability to shine their light in a respectful manner. But just firing them is not teaching them how to be professional. It's what did I do wrong? Provide them the ability of coaching. If the person is not able to be coached, that's another topic, another story. But for now, we can't blame the generations for not knowing better. We can only blame ourselves for not giving them the right resources and tools in making them feel heard, safe, and seen for them to even receive from us so that they can become coachable. That's planted, not buried coaching for you. Emotional intelligence training for professional healthcare. It's a doozy, but we got to.
We're driving cars on a Mars tonight. We're passing off to the stars tonight. We want